Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be about 5 things that I wish I knew before I started my whole fitness journey that I want to share with you guys, that if you know them, you'll not really take a shortcut to a better path, but you'll have a better understanding, and so you can have better results a little bit faster. So the 5 things are going to be broken up into some of the things are nutrition based and some of the things are workout based. The first one is going to be kind of a mix of both. So what the first tip is you do not have to excessively bulk in order to build a lot of muscle. So in the past, I put on a lot of weight thinking that as a natural athlete, it was the only way that I could build a lot of muscle. And in a way, it did help me because you do need to be in a calorie surplus. But the downside is that you have to then have a huge cut if you want to see your results and feel good and be lean, and often that can require quite a lot of sacrifices. So what I'd like to present with you instead is a term called main gaining, which is like maintaining but slightly gaining. And that basically means that you're adding muscle to your frame, you're in a slight calorie surplus, but you're not eating to the point where you're really putting on a lot of extra fat. That's going to be a better way of getting stronger and improving your overall physique without the downside of having to do a big cut, and also without the problems associated with putting on extra weight, which can be significant, including psychological. You might not like the way you look, or even physiological. You might start to run into different things. Like I had a higher blood pressure, for example, when I was heavier. So that kind of thing is a tip that I think is very useful. Instead of putting on a lot of extra weight to gain muscle, go about it a little bit slower and try to gain very little amount of weight as far as extra fat. Look at the scale. If you see that it goes up too fast, start to cut down your calories a little bit. But for the most part, you want to just basically main gain your way, and over the course of time, you'll get better results. The second tip that I want to give you guys is a more fitness related tip that goes directly to workouts. So I've done compound lifts my whole life, and I really like, for example, bench press, deadlift, squat, and I thought that those would build up my abs. Now, what they've done is given me a really good core. So I have really good core strength. But if you want to get defined abs, this is my second tip, you need to work out your abs directly as if they were a muscle, like your biceps or your triceps or your shoulders. You need to attack them directly. So it is important to do ab work that is targeting the abs, that is not only the compound lifts that you do. So compound lifts, of course, are going to really give you a lot of strength also in like your spinal erectors, your quadratus lumborum, a lot of muscles that are like smaller, even like your multifidi. But if you want to get really strong and you want to have nice abs, you do need to target them directly. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is again something about food, but more specifically about water. Most people, they just simply don't drink enough water. And I've made this error myself. The Mayo Clinic, which is a very big hospital and research center in America, has stabilized a good amount of water for people, it's men, for example, at 3 liters a day. So in the States, that would be like 3 quarts of water a day. Women at 2.5, and that's just basically because women tend to be slightly smaller than men as far as just overall size. But if you can get to 3 liters of water a day, you're covering the basic needs of your body, and it might seem like a lot. And in fact, I often didn't get to 3 liters, but the benefits of getting to a higher amount of water is you basically purify your system a lot more. And oddly enough, you can hold on to extra weight because your body is basically doing water retention. And if you give your body enough water, then it won't retain it, and so it'll shed. And that kind of thing is another tip, that sometimes people have a hard time losing weight simply because their body is just so full of water because they're not drinking enough. So tip number 3 is get up to 3 liters of water if you're a man, and 2.5 if you're a woman. Tip number 4. So when you get into fitness, you might think that the best way to work out is to confuse your muscles. That's something that people have talked about in the past. Do a lot of different things, a lot of different ways, and so you're always stimulating your muscles. But really, what I've learned and what I want to share with you is that consistency is a bigger contributor to gains than sporadically going around and trying to do a million different things. So it's really a lot better if you can do the basics really well, and if you can stick to them over time. So I've taught a lot of people Pilates and yoga, and those are exercise routines that are based around sequences that you will repeat over and over. But as you get better at them, you do get a lot of results because your body learns correct motor engrams and basically it gets the right biomechanics figured out. And as you get better at biomechanics, your body understands how to move and how to work better, and it becomes more efficient. And so you get even stronger muscle contractions and you get overall better results because you are literally training as opposed to working out. The difference is like, if I work out, I might decide randomly to do biceps, I might decide randomly to do chest, but if you're training, you're trying to specifically get better at a certain thing. And that's gonna give you way better results than if you do a lot of different things and never get good at anything. So you don't wanna be a jack of all trades. You wanna be good at the basics and have a solid foundation. The last tip I wanna share with you guys has something to do also with protein and nutrition. So basically, the long and short of it is that I thought for many years that you had to have a really high protein diet. And in a way, you do need to have the right amount of protein. But the problem with protein is that your body can only really metabolize about 30 grams of protein per meal. So if you have a meal where you're having like 40 or 50 or 60 grams of protein, your body is going to go through a phase called gluconeogenesis, where it basically takes that protein and turns it into carbs. That has, negative results because basically instead of eating protein and using it as a muscle rebuilder or a skeletal rebuilder, it just turns into another energy source that is not necessarily useful for you if you're already getting energy from carbs or from fats. So the thing about protein is bioavailability is really important. Certain proteins are more bioavailable. For example, meat, eggs, milk, those are very bioavailable. Beans are less so. In that case, you need to have, for example, beans with rice, make them more bioavailable because it completes the amino acids that way. But overall, if you get more than 30 grams of protein per meal, you're probably not doing anything with those extra proteins. So it's better to space out your meals, get more meals in, maybe with a 3 or 4 hour window in between, and that way you'll be able to absorb the protein and make better use of it. So these are the tips that I think are useful for you to know. They're 5 tips. They have helped me as I figured things out get better results. And so my hope is that these tips will help you and you will be able to avoid certain pitfalls and make less mistakes than I did. If you like this kind of thing, please hit a like, please hit a subscribe. Thank you guys for following us and be well.